The Aegis Ballistic Missile Defense System is a United States Department of Defense Missile Defense Agency program developed to provide missile defense against short to intermediate-range ballistic missiles. It is part of the United States National Missile Defense Strategy. Aegis BMD is designed to intercept ballistic missiles post-boost phase and prior to re-entry. It enables warships to shoot down enemy ballistic missiles by expanding the Aegis Combat System with the addition of the AN/SPY-1 radar and standard missile technologies. Aegis BMD-equipped vessels can transmit their target detection information to the Ground-Based Midcourse Defense System and, if needed, engage potential threats using either the SM-2 or SM-3 missile. Aegis BMD does not have the ability to intercept ICBMs, although future versions may allow limited intercept capability. The current system uses the Lockheed Martin Aegis weapons system and the Raytheon IM-161 Standard Missile 3. Notable subcontractors and technical experts include Boeing Defense, Space and Security, Alliant Tech Systems, Honeywell, Naval Surface Warfare Center, Spore Systems Center, Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology Lincoln Laboratory. History and technical development. Origins. The current effort to deploy Aegis ballistic missile defense was begun during the mid-1980s as part of President Ronald Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative. The SDI plan was initially for a space-based railgun system. However, due to technological constraints, the system was transformed into a surface-based system known as the Lightweight Exo-Atmospheric Projectile. The original testing of the LEAP was done as part of the Army LEAP program. Later, SDIO worked with the Navy to test the LEAP on the Terrier missile. The Terrier LEAP demonstration program lasted from 1991 into 1995 and consisted of 4 flight tests. 2 of these were intercept tests in early 1995. Both failed to intercept. The first had a software error in the second stage booster. The second had a squib in the kinetic kill vehicle that was mounted backwards and failed to fire. Program history and development. During the late 1990s, the U.S. Navy was tasked to provide a weapons system for exploratory testing of LEAP. This phase was designated the Aegis LEAP Intercept Program. The program was for 2 successful intercepts in 5 attempts. On June 13, 2002, the second successful ALI intercept occurred during the FM-3 flight test mission. Initial Aegis BMD success may have contributed to President George W. Bush's decision to deploy an emergency ballistic missile capability by late 2004. Upon the completion of the ALI program, Aegis BMD was transitioned to the production phase. The first Block I production SM-3 was delivered in October 2004. And the Aegis 3.0 update was delivered in 2005. This system was given major new importance by President Obama in September 2009, when he announced plans to scrap the plans for a missile defense site in Poland, in favor of missile defense systems located on U.S. Navy warships. On September 18, 2009, Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin welcomed Obama's plans for missile defense, which may include stationing American Aegis-armed warships in the Black Sea, as these would be less effective against Russia's missile attacks. In 2009, several U.S. Navy ships were fitted with SM-3 missiles to serve this function, which complements the Patriot systems already deployed by American units. Warships of Japan and Australia also have been given weapons and technology to enable them to participate as well. Current Aegis BMD hardware includes the SM-3 Block 1 missile and other improvements to the Aegis weapons system. Future development of the Aegis BMD system includes launch-on-remote capability, upgraded SM-3 avionics and hardware, and an upgraded Aegis weapon system. In 2012, Aegis Ballistic Missile Defense will merge with Aegis Open Architecture and deliver the benefits of both platforms. The launch-on-remote capability involves the use of off-board sensors, such as the space tracking and surveillance system, to provide a targeting solution for a SM-3 launch. The variations of the Aegis BMD system currently in service are the 3.6.1 version and the 4.0.1 version. The MDA and the U.S. Navy plan to deploy more advanced versions, such as the 5.0, 5.1 and 5.2, in the future. The improved versions will be equipped with advanced processors and software, as well as upgraded variants of the SM-3 interceptor missile. BMD-capable ships can have their BMD capabilities upgraded from earlier versions to later versions. Aegis Ashore a land-based component, Aegis Ashore, also is planned. This would consist of equipment which is commonly used by the Navy being deployed in land-based facilities. This would include Spy-1 radars and a battery of standard missile 3s. The Obama administration unregistered trademark S plans call for 2 sites, the first in Romania at Dvzelu in 2015 and the second in Poland in 2018. In 2020, both will get the latest versions of the Aegis BMD software and the latest version of the SM-3. Some radar facilities will be placed in Turkey at a future date. On May 21, 2014, US DoD headlined, "Standard Missile Completes First Test Launch from Aegis Ashore Test Site," and reported that, the Missile Defense Agency, the U.S. Navy, and sailors at the Aegis Ashore Missile Defense Test Complex and Pacific Missile Range Facility, successfully conducted the first flight test involving components of the Aegis Ashore system. During the test, a simulated ballistic missile target was acquired, tracked, and engaged by the Aegis weapon system. At approximately 7:35 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time, May 20, the Aegis weapon system fired a Standard Missile 3 Block IB guided missile from the vertical launch system. Several fire control and engagement functions were exercised during the test. A live target missile launch was not planned for this flight test. SM-3 and SM-2 Block 4 interceptors The Aegis BMD uses the RIM-161 Standard Missile 3 Midcourse Interceptors and the RIM-156 Standard Missile 2 Block 4 Terminal Phase Interceptors developed by Raytheon. The Standard Missile 3 is capable of intercepting ballistic missiles above the atmosphere during the midcourse phase of a hostile ballistic missile's flight. The missile is launched from the Mk-41 vertical launching system of the warships. It receives in-flight target updates from the ship. The Kinetic Warhead is designed to destroy a ballistic missile's warhead with more than 130 megajoules of kinetic energy by colliding with it. The existing SM-3 Block IA version will be upgraded to SM-3 Block IB, SM-3 Block IIA and SM-3 Block IIB to counter future ballistic missile threats. The SM-2 Block 4 can engage the ballistic missiles within the atmosphere in the terminal phase of a missile's trajectory. The missile carries a blast fragmentation warhead. The SM-2 Block 4 will be replaced with a new extended-range IM-174 interceptor. Deployment: as of January 2014, the US and Japan are the only countries to have deployed the Aegis BMD. US Navy Aegis BMD vessels As of May 2014, there are 5 Ticonderoga-class cruisers and 25 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers equipped with BMD in the U.S. Navy. Of the 30 ships, 16 are assigned to the Pacific Fleet and 14 to the Atlantic Fleet. Under MDA and Navy plans, the number of BMD-capable Navy Aegis ships is scheduled to grow from 33 at the end of FY 2014 to 43 at the end of FY 2019. The Navy unregistered trademark SFY 2015 30-year shipbuilding plan projects that the total number of Aegis cruisers and destroyers will be between 80 and 97 during the 30-year period. Japanese deployment The JMSDF has equipped 3 vessels for LRST and engagement, JS Kongo, JS Chokai, JS Myoko, and in 2010 the JS Kirishima. Japan's Foreign Minister, Hirofumi Nakazone, and South Korea's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yoo Myung-hwan, agreed that early April 5, 2009, launch of the North Korean UMH-2 satellite violated UN Resolutions 1695 and 1718 of July 2006. Japan's cabinet examined approval of a JMSDF Aegis BMD engagement in the event of a failure of the Taepondong launch. The Japanese government also noted that it could bypass cabinet for an interception under Article 82, Section 2, Paragraph 3 of the Self-Defense Forces Law. In total, 5 Aegis destroyers were deployed at that time. The intercept capability was a two-tiered use of SM-3s in the boost phase and Patriot PAC-3s in the event of re-entry in Japanese airspace during a potential failure. Supplemental to SM-3 capability, the Japanese system incorporates an airborne component. Together, discrimination between platform tests and satellite launches is possible by analyzing the angle of ascent. Political debate. Tom Laliberte of Raytheon said that President Barack Obama was forced to shift from a land-based missile defense system to a sea-based one because of the difficulties of coordinating with partner nations. There is discussion about the effectiveness of this plan. Some critics say it is not as effective as a ground-based defense since the most advanced standard missiles lack even half the range to hit ICBMs and even IRBMs arcing overhead. Also, the U.S. Defense Department has said it would be just one component of a wider defense which might also include ground-based facilities. There are some reports that Spy-1 radar systems on board some individual warships are not being maintained properly. A Navy panel headed by retired Vice Admiral Philip Belisle has asserted that since the late 1990s there has been an overemphasis on saving money, including cuts in crews and streamlined training and maintenance, which has led to a drastic decline in readiness, and has left Aegis Combat Systems in low state of readiness. And in spite of a reduction in the objective for the number of Aegis-armed warships to field, the U.S. Navy will still fall short of this reduced objective under the fiscal year for 2012 shipbuilding plan for the next 30 years. International reaction. Russia believes that the system is fueling a new arms race, and is constructed on ridiculous fabricated pretexts of protection against non-existent threats of the so-called rogue states. Dmitry Rogozin, the deputy prime minister of the Russian government, said that the country would react in the sharpest manner to any American ships armed with the system found near their shores. Other capabilities. The Aegis BMD system, coupled with the RIM-161 standard missile, has also demonstrated a limited capability as an anti-satellite weapon against satellites in the lower portion of low Earth orbit. On February 20, 2008, USA 193 was destroyed by a group of Aegis ships in the Pacific, out of concern of that satellite's hydrazine payload contaminating land area upon re-entry from an uncontrolled orbit. The launching vessel was the USS Lake Erie, and one SM-3 missile was used. Interception was at an altitude of 133 nautical miles. Target for simulating endo-atmospheric flight of DF-21 ICBM, according to a Congressional Research Service report dated July 31, 2014, the lack of a test target simulating the Chinese DF-21 ICBM is highlighted. A threat representative anti-ship ballistic missile target for operational open-air testing has become an immediate test resource need. China is fielding the DF-21D ICBM, which threatens U.S. and Allied surface warships in the Western Pacific. While the Missile Defense Agency has exo-atmospheric targets in development, no program currently exists for an endo-atmospheric target. The endo-atmospheric ICBM target is the Navy Euro unregistered trademark S responsibility, but it is not currently budgeted. The Missile Defense Agency estimates the non-recurring expense to develop the exo-atmospheric target was $30 million, with each target costing an additional $30 million. The endo-atmospheric target will be more expensive to produce according to Missile Defense the analysts. Numerous Navy acquisition programs will require an ICBM surrogate in the coming years, although a limited number of targets may be sufficient to validate analytical models. The December 2012 report from DOT&E did not further discuss this issue. A January 21, 2013, press report stated that this is because the details of the issue are classified. According to Roger Cliff, a senior political scientist at the RAND Corporation, while the SM-3 would have limited effectiveness against anti-ship ballistic missiles, the U.S. arsenal has a variety of potential countermeasures, and the kill chain, for example, a potential DF-21D attack would be so complicated that it would provide a number of opportunities to defeat the attack. He also stated that unless one country integrates an entire system of systems to make this work, the missile itself would be pretty useless. Some countries might buy them just to impress their neighbors, but their combat effectiveness would be negligible unless the country also invested in the needed detection, data processing, and communication systems. Roger Cliff. Flight tests to date. As of August 1, 2015, Aegis BMDs has performed 31 successful intercepts in 37 at-sea attempts. Gallery == See also, RIM-161 Standard Missile 3, Aegis Weapon System, Anti-Ballistic Missile, Artigo-class Destroyer, Ballistic Missile Defense Organization, NATO Missile Defense System, Pacific Missile Range Facility, Strategic Defense Initiative, Ticonderoga-class Cruiser, Vertical Launching System, YAL-1 Airborne Laser, Kinetic Energy Interceptor, National Missile Defense, Arrow Missile, Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, Indian Ballistic Missile Defense Program, MIM-104 Patriot Missile. References. External links, U.S. Navy website, Aegis BMD webpage, U.S. Missile Defense Agency official website. U.S. Government Analysis, BMD Fleet Plans Europe Defense Mission, by Philip Ewing, Navy Times, September 30, 2009. U.S. Navy juggles ships to fill BMD demands, by Christopher P. Cavers, DefenseNews.com, January 4, 2010. How many Aegis ships to defend NATO? By Jeffrey Lewis, June 12, 2007. U.S. nears key step in European defense shield against Iranian missiles, by Craig Whitlock, Washington Post, August 1, 2010. Turkey to host U.S. missile defense, PIA Newswire, October 18, 2010. The Unintended Consequences of Missile Defense, by Ron Lipsman, American Thinker, October 20, 2010. Under the new missile defense plan there are still options for assurance, John Warden, Axis.org. Aegis upgrade for destroyers, cruisers, UPI, August 6, 2010. Aegis Ballistic Missile Defense System,